Minister, you talked about it would be great if we could all take a reflect. You know, that's why we shouldn't be rushing committee and report stage together, so that we could actually reflect on each other saying. But I have to say, your logic doesn't stand up as to your reason for not accepting that earlier amendment about the sex abuser. It in no way, that amendment in its wording, in no way excluded the possibility of the regulator having regard to other welfare conditions. Absolutely no way. And there are any number of ways in which this could be worded. But without prejudice to any other welfare issues to be taken into consideration by the regulator, a person convicted of an indictable offence in relation to a personal crime shall not be able to avail. Absolutely, and I can assure you, even on the basis of my short career parking law, you are not on correct legal ground there, Minister. To be specific would in no way exclude the general, provided it's worded correctly. Without prejudice to other welfare considerations, it shall not be possible for somebody convicted, etc., etc. That would leave the regulator completely clear to take any other issue into account of the kind you described, the person accessing child porn or whatever it was, the other examples you gave. So can I assure you on that point that you could indeed have taken this amendment without in any way weakening the ability of the regulator to take other aspects of past history involving convictions or otherwise, that they could also be taken into account. But the whole approach here, Minister, is to say, trust the regulator. And you give absolute guarantees. But it's not there in the bill. You say, it will never, ever happen. By the way, can I just say, I have no doubt that you would never want it to happen. Nobody here in this room would want a convicted sex abuser to be able to, or somebody convicted of, indeed of violence generally, to be enabled. And we would hope that the regulator would ask all the hard questions, and we would hope that the regulator might exclude accordingly. But it's not enough to say, don't worry, the regulator will, because we've given it all the powers in the world to do so. You have enabled, but you have not required. You say that the minister makes the, and I quoted it myself, that the paramountcy principle would be there, and the minister would have to have regard to that in making regulations. That still doesn't tell us about the facts on the ground when the regulator comes to do its work. And that's why the more guarantees, the more strict requirements directly there in legislation are necessary. And I am taking it from what you've said, that in fact the regulator is legally entitled to disregard the request in writing, or the failure to supply a request in writing. Perhaps you might say that the minister may make a regulation that will require such a request in writing for a specified form to be supplied before the regulator can proceed further. But that's not what's before us today. You leave it to the regulator to decide everything, to oversee everything, and indeed to overlook anything. And that isn't acceptable, considering child welfare is what we're talking about here today. I'll leave it at that on that point.
Thank you, Senator. Minister, are you okay?